Paltrocast.
Pleasure to be speaking with you. How's your day going aside from the media people asking you all these same questions about 1992?
Yeah, press day today feels that you are on a Zoom conference that doesn't end. And you have a CEO that probably have hearing issues, so you need to repeat yourself many times until you hear what you want to say. No, I'm joking. I'm enjoying talking about this movie, man. It's funny. Like I don't suffer at all. I'm very happy to see you too.
Well, it's a much hyped about, much talked about movie because of the cast, because of yourself, because the topic and the theme of the 1992 riots remains a major discussion point decades later. But how long did it take you to get this movie made?
You know, that was actually one of the fastest process feature films that I stumbled upon because the movie was with Lionsgate for 10 years in development.
Wow.
And then in 2020, I think it was I read it somewhere around November, which was kind of like just post the entire, George Floyd riots in the
Right.
entire nation. And so, the streets are dirty, the smells of burn is still, you can still feel LA, that was actually burning that day. You can see all the windows shutters. So it's just like I got the script on a turnaround. Like basically the studio just could not make the movie, and then COVID hit. So like studios like kind of like say, okay, not this project. And I literally the script got into my hand in November, and I was reading it, still feeling the vibration of what just happened in the city. So it was kind of like almost metaphoric to read something that happened at that time, 28 years earlier when I read it for the first time, and to feel that history just repeated itself.
Right.
So it was very, a mix of emotions, but because it was November, I already had an entire, team putting together. We were shooting it already by September 21. So less than a year later, after obviously all the rewrites and casting and financing, I was in production. Then Lionsgate came back again a year later, exactly on 22 in Toronto. And then another 2 years passed by because we wanted to release the movie in 23, and then the strike came in. So it was just like, one of those films that were actually felt very right to do at the time that I received it. And it was like almost like a ball of energy of fire from the moment you read a script that you are less than a year on production.
Right.
Um, that's fast. But then again, the life doesn't work this way. That there always got to be something that will slow you down, that will make you think, that will let almost like the entire world, waiting for the right moment to be exposed to this film. So yeah, so there's a saying like, every postponing is for the best. So it was a very fast movie to put together. It was a very slow process to put it out.
Did you know outright that you wanted to direct and not just work on the screenplay?
Yeah, I was looking at the script with an eye for direction. For me, sometimes when I see materials, it doesn't matter which stage of writing it is, it's like it's really my first initiative instinct,
Mhm.
whether I connect or not, whether this is something that I feel enough challenged, or there is enough reason for me to come into this experience and journey. And yeah, on this specific movie, it was, I knew exactly, I love what Sasha created in the story, but I knew exactly where I want to go deeper, and where, where we're gonna have, to put it in such a package also that we can, that we can actually shoot it for the right budget. Because one of the reasons it went to turnaround, because the studio in the back, the past could not figure it out how to make this movie, for it was too expensive. And we just literally came back and shot it for less than half. So it's like so it was again, sometimes you need that, and then eventually they came immediately and bought it. So it was a win-win situation for everyone eventually on this specific process.
So I've had the pleasure of interviewing Sasha because of power junkets. Everyone wants to talk to Sasha, but how did you and Sasha first connect?
I knew his manager and another friend, common friend, a producer that read that script, knew about the project that was for many years on the shelf and never could make, the right budget to make it with Ice Cube and his son. And I think these are the more main attachment on this one. And that's it. I knew some of Sasha work in the past, but I learned who he was, and I met him just when the screenplay came into my hand.
Yeah, when I think of the 92 LA riots, I think of a lot of the music related to it, that it was inspired by, etc. And I think of Ice Cube. So it's very cool to see that O'Shea Jr. is in this. When in the casting project process did O'Shea Jr. come into it?
Well, he's not in the movie. He was
I had
supposed.
read that O'Shea was in the movie or up for it. Did that
Oh
change?
no, he was supposed to be Ice Cube's son in the original script. So when Lionsgate had that movie, O'Shea Jackson and Ice Cube were the father and son role. So in the film, when I came in, we obviously we didn't go that direction. The originality of that period didn't come from Ice Cube, it came from Snoop Dogg.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Another.
They did a good, Dr. Dre and Ice Cube, got the Straight Out of Compton movie, and now it's not that Snoop Dogg is necessarily portraying the film, but he took that side from the soundtrack, as you mentioned, and I guess the stamp of somebody that his career started with the Chronic album in
Sure.
90. So 92 was a big year for Snoop as well. So we went on Snoop's side.
Again, legends. But back to
Legend.
you here, because this was such a long process for you. What's next? Are we allowed to know what the next project from you is?
I said it a few times in these interviews. I do have a movie that is out to one of my favorite actors, something that I wrote, something that I'm very excited that it's a lot about what we all experienced in the last 4 years and about to experience, I think, in the next 4 years. But what I learned from those press junket is you better keep it quiet. Because if it was something that I knew for a fact that I'm going into production in the next couple of weeks, I would maybe leak it. But because I'm still in the process to put it together, pretty advanced. But I decided that this time I'm just going to keep the mystery on, and when the right moment to come out, hopefully you're going to say like, "Oh, I wish you told me that. That was a good story." But I'm going to
Well,
keep.
let me ask this instead. Are you this next project the director, the writer, producer, all of those things?
In a weird way, I'm all of those things again. I
Mhm.
co-wrote. This time it's my idea. I co-wrote the script with the great Alex Mace, and I'm co-producing it with him, and I am the director. Now, it's really not coming from a control freak position, I swear to God. I just feel that also when I'm collaborating with other writers and other producers, it's nice to have, and I'm talking myself in a third voice, but it's nice to have the director involved
Yeah,
this development, because it really brings into a more speedy development and in a more accurate, process of what movie you want to make. Because when the forces are not aligned, the writer sits alone on the sofa. I write a good idea, and then the producer reads it. He thinks that he can afford it, but
right.
now they're looking for the filmmaker, and then they hear all those voices, and eventually they're picking one voice that maybe is not the right voice, but maybe it is the right voice, but maybe it's too convoluted voice. Anyway, it's becoming such a journey that no matter which seat you're taking, from the executive in the studio or the producer, or that, it's really hard when you're not having, the whole 9 yards with you from initiative, especially on original ideas. I'm not talking about when you are a part of a franchise and you got to execute certain levels. This is a work of art that many very professional people in the industry are doing it amazing. But on the original side, I think that you need to have, the team of the writer and the director and the producer early down the road, and to have enough good people around you that you don't, develop schizophrenic, mind and dual personality or bipolar situation where you're like, oh, I'm the producer, now I'm the writer, now I'm the director. No, it's kind of like a collaboration of the entire journey together. So yes, I am all three hats again.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Congratulations on 1992 and looking forward to whatever is coming next for you. Thanks for the years of great art.
Thank you, man.
Paltrocast.